Good morning. I'm coming to you from my new office, but it's not done yet. You know, the church, in terms of its building and structure, forms a kind of geographic epicenter from which love and service are intended to flow into the community. Right now, it's easy for us to feel a little bit like we don't have a geographic epicenter. Instead, we're stationed at home. We're, as a staff, in our various homes, occasionally in and out of the office, but a lot officing from home. Some of you are at home. Some of you are at work. But the rhythms aren't like they normally are they? No, they're not. That doesn't mean that we don't have the opportunity, though, to love and to serve one another. It doesn't mean that somehow the church stops being the church. In fact, these days might end up being the church's greatest hour. I want to read you a text from John's Gospel. It's a story you might be familiar with about Jesus and his disciples. But just listen. Now before the feast of the Passover, when Jesus knew that his hour had come to depart out of this world to the Father, having loved his own who were in the world, he loved them to the end. That's John 13, verse 1. He loved them to the end. And now he gives them, in verse 2, a tangible demonstration of his love. During supper, when the devil had already put into the heart of Judas Iscariot, Simon's son, to betray him, Jesus, knowing that the Father had given all things into his hands, and that he had come from God and was going back to God, rose from supper. He laid aside his outer garments, and taking a towel, tied it around his waist. Then he poured water and began to wash the disciples' feet. And he wiped them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, "Lord, do you wash my feet?" He was astonished that Jesus would wash his feet, because it was such an act of servitude. Well, Peter has an interchange with him, and I want to pick up in verse 12. After Peter's interchange with Jesus, we read, "When he had washed their feet and put on his outer garment and resumed his place, he said to them, 'Do you understand what I've done to you? You call me teacher and Lord, and you're right, for so I am. If I then, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also ought to wash one another's feet. For I've given you an example that you also should do, just as I have done to you.'" The one who created them, the one who came to rescue them in their fallenness and rescue us in our fallenness, did not see it beneath himself to do the act of a loving servant to the disciples. Remember, Peter, a little while later, is going to deny him. And yet, knowing that Peter would deny him, knowing that there was Judas in that upper room who would betray him, he proceeds to act in service. Today, I want you to consider, who can you give a demonstrable act of love to? Who can you serve today? You might be tired of being at home with some of these people. You might be tired of being at work with some of these people. But I want you to know, the Lord wants you to serve. He wants you to love people. He wants you to go about your day in such a way that he's honored and glorified, and that he's honored and glorified through your act of mimicking Jesus in loving service. Serve someone today. Thank you, and I hope you have a wonderful day today.